Hi guys, so my name's Hayley Smith and I work for I Am Hope in New Zealand, and I've been wanting to start a YouTube channel for quite a while now because I have been uploading some videos onto our Facebook page. If you haven't seen them, go check it out. If I can figure it out, I'm gonna include the links in the description and all that kind of stuff to the Facebook page and Instagram pages and whatnot. But so I started doing videos on that, and the response that I got from that was amazing. So now I'm hoping to start up this YouTube channel so I can upload those previous videos or redo them, as well as kind of create a new platform for us to get I Am Hope kind of out there. But on my Instagram page, so at Journey of Hales, again, if I can figure it out, I'll link it in the description, which is my public mental health page. I put out a question just asking people for some questions so that I actually had some content for my first video. So this is kind of going to be a get to know me Q&A video. Yeah. And then if you have any other questions that you want answered, I can go more into depth in another video. So leave any other questions below in the comment section, and give this a thumbs up if I should keep doing this. But so first of all, my name's Hayley Smith. I live in New Zealand in the beautiful Bay of Plenty. I've kind of lived all over New Zealand my life. I was born up in Whangarei and I lived in Dargaville for 10 years, and then I moved down to Christchurch and I lived there for 2 years, and I was there during the Christchurch earthquakes, and from that we moved up here to Tauranga where I currently live. And I love it, it's so beautiful. I'm 19, I just turned 19, I almost said 18, no, just turned 19 before Christmas. And that's kind of me. I dropped out of school at quite young due to my mental health, and so this is what I do for work now, and I love it so much. So let's get into some of the questions. So the first question that I got was, how did I get into this job? And it's actually quite funny, and if you've been to any of mine and Mike's talks, you kind of have a bit of an understanding about my history, and what kind of contributed to my mental health struggles. But how I actually got into this job is a really funny story. So in 2017 I spent 4 consecutive months in the child and adolescent mental health unit up in Starship in Auckland, and my parents were both kind of at their wits end. They just didn't know what to do. The treatment wasn't working, we hadn't found the right medication, and I was still struggling so much. And so my mum actually messaged Mike King on Facebook. I had no clue who he was at first, and he was like, okay, cool, I'll go see her in the ward and we can just to say hi. And he came and he sat me down, and so he visited me in the locked kind of part of the unit, which was where I was spending most of my time because of the risk with my safety. And he came to me and he's like we kind of chatted and it was cool, but everyone was like, oh my gosh, Mike King kind of thing, and I was like, who is this guy? I don't know who he is. And he sat down and when we had finished talking, he was like, so what are your plans for next year in March? So this would have been 2017. What are your plans for March 2018? And I was like, straight up, and I think this kind of shocked him, I was like, well, nothing, because I'm gonna be dead by then. And he's like, cool, well, if you're not dead, can you come on this tour with us? And I was like, yeah, whatever, this kind of famous guy from New Zealand isn't just gonna come into a random psych ward and talk to a 17-year-old and be like, yo, wanna come on a tour around all of New Zealand and you can speak and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I'll say yes, but that's not actually gonna happen. And then March rolls around and it actually does happen, which is insane to think about now. And so that tour in March was kind of the start of me being a part of I Am Hope and the Key to Life company. And so that's how I got into it. It's really funny. And then from that I was offered so the month on the road, which was absolutely amazing, and I hope that if you're watching this that you heard kind of about the tour, or like the success that it was, and kind of the way we got it out on social media. And then from that I've just been touring around with Mike talking. The next question, so I did actually get quite a lot of questions. Some of them I cannot answer right now because I am struggling a lot, and I don't want to sound like a hypocrite giving advice or information when I'm not actually doing that myself. And so hopefully at some point I'll be able to answer them when I am in a better place. The next one was ways to say that you can't help others because you're struggling yourself. This has happened to me quite a lot because I'm such a people pleaser, and so I would drown myself to keep other people afloat. Like, I put everyone else's needs before me, especially within this job. It is like, it takes a toll on your mental health a lot. And I totally disregarded that because I was like, okay, I need to help as many people as I can. And I was able to keep that up for a little bit, but then I completely crashed. And it is hard, but now I am realizing that, like, my mum always says that you can't pour from an empty cup, and so you need to be in the best mindset yourself to be able to support those around you as best as you can. And hopefully, like, if they are understanding and good friends, that they will understand that and won't be mad about it or anything. Yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup. You need to put yourself first. How to help a friend with mental health if you haven't specifically experienced what they're going through. So yeah, so it's been hard for some of my friends to kind of understand, and I don't blame them because sometimes it's even hard for me to make sense of what's going on in my head. But the best thing that, like, you can do is to ask them, ask them, hey, is there anything that I can do right now that you need? Like, if they're struggling to get out of bed, go over. I've had friends kick me out of bed and be like, okay, we're going to the beach now. Or if it's just going for a walk and grabbing a coffee as a distraction, like, little things like that help people when they're struggling so much. And if it's parents or anything, I know my mum went to extreme lengths to try and understand what was going on for me, and so, like, I think we have every single book that they've written on my conditions within the house, and she's been to talk to other people and comes to therapy with me to get some form of understanding, and reading lots of blogs and all this kind of stuff just to get this information. So, and if your friend is struggling with someone, offer your support, but also try to educate yourself in your own time, so you do kind of, yeah, you just understand more what's going on inside their heads. How to accept a diagnosis. I have struggled with that a lot in the past, and feeling invalid almost, that it's not something that I struggle with, or that I don't warrant a diagnosis because it's not that bad, or yeah. And it is hard to come to terms with things. For me personally, I found getting diagnoses very helpful, because it is a label that I can put what's going on in my brain, that I'm not just crazy, that this is actually a thing that has been researched and it's a thing. The main kind of reason of having a diagnosis is so treatment providers, they have, I guess, recommended kind of therapies for each illness. So there's that, but also it's just like, it's literally a label, nothing more, nothing less, to help doctors and stuff find treatment that helps, whether that be medication or different types of talking therapy. But the biggest thing is that it's just a label. It does not define you as a person, and it's not forever. How to ask for help. I have struggled with that so much, and I was fortunate enough for when I did first need to see mental health professionals, my friends were the ones that noticed that something wasn't quite right, and so they went and talked to someone and told our school counsellor actually that, hey, they had noticed these things were going on, and they just thought that I needed some support. So I was lucky that I didn't have to initiate that first kind of conversation because I wasn't in the right space to do so. But asking for help now, like, it kind of depends on what type of support you need, whether that's going through your GP or even just talking to your parents. I found writing letters really helpful, so there doesn't so I don't actually have to verbalize it. I find it easier to write things down. So writing down a letter to someone to explain what's going on inside my head and giving them that to read. And I've done that to my parents, saying that, hey, I need some support with this right now and I'm struggling with this. Or like sometimes when I go to see my psychologist, I literally write down just kind of what's happened in the week that I haven't seen her, what's been going on and what's going through my head, because by the time I get there, I'm not only exhausted from my brain, and I have probably forgotten everything that's happened, and then it's just there on paper, and I don't have to kind of rehash it all, and then she can ask me questions to help unpack what's been going on. Tips on fighting self-harm urges. I'd love to make another video about this specifically, go more in depth on this topic. So I am 150 days self-harm free, which is again the longest I've been in a while, which is really awesome. The urges are always there, but it's just sometimes they're more intense, and then in the times when they're not so intense, they just don't really think about them, I guess, even if it's just for 5 minutes. And so all I can say right now is just to wait it out, that the urges are there, and just tell yourself, okay, so I'm just going to keep myself safe for the next 5 minutes. 5 minutes I'm going to sit down and do some mindful colouring in or watch an episode of something, and reevaluate in 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes, and just waiting for these urges to pass, because they do, not entirely, but they will lessen in kind of intensity. And another thing that I found really helpful, specifically in DBT, is the pros and cons of, so writing down the pros and cons of self-harming, and then the pros and cons of not engaging in these behaviours. So I would really urge you to do that, because it is really helpful and really insightful, and if I do another video I will go through that letter, my own personal kind of pros and cons list that I did, because it does really put it into perspective. Where and when was my first talk? So Mike visited me in CFU and I want to say like June, July kind of thing, and it would have been September, I want to say November, September. He was actually coming down to speak at my old school, and I hadn't seen him since I was in the ward, and so he's like, okay, cool, just come along to this talk. And I was like, okay, cool, like, yeah, whatever, at my old school, like, it'll be cool to see some of the teachers that I haven't seen since I left, and yeah, and I'm sitting there listening, I'm like, okay, this is so cool, like, I'd love to do this at some point. And he goes, okay, now Hayley's coming up to talk, and I was like, what? But it actually went so cool, and this was kind of at the part of the talk where people were just asking me questions to have a young person's perspective, and as terrifying as it was, the kind of response that I got was amazing, and that one talk kind of definitely got me hooked on this whole thing, and seeing the response that I got from parents, and as well like some students that I went to school with that didn't really know like they knew that I had stuff going on, but they didn't know the kind of severity of it, and why I kind of just disappeared off the face of the earth for a few months. And so yeah, so I found that was awesome. That was my first talk. What I like most about my job is using my story to help other people, and to hopefully have this as like I always say when I was younger, if someone came into my school and kind of normalized the fact of that we all have this inner critic inside our head, and that we all struggle, I definitely would have kind of realized that it was normal at a younger age. And accessing the school counsellors, if it was talked about regularly and offered, I would have taken up those opportunities a lot sooner than I did, which definitely would have saved us a lot of pain and trouble down the track. But so hopefully this, what I'm doing personally and what I Am Hope is doing, is hopefully an intervention so that so many young people don't have to go down the path that I did, and using my story to kind of do that gives me some form of purpose, which is something that I've always lacked and struggled with. And so yeah, so this job kind of just gives me a purpose, and I love it. It's so cool. So my biggest achievement so far was, it's in here, so I actually got nominated for a local hero award when they do the like New Zealander of the Year awards. So I was nominated for the Kiwibank New Zealander of the Year Local Hero Award, and I got this presented to me in 2019, and so I love this so much. This is probably my favourite thing. And also the recent Sterling Sports ad that I got to be a part of was so cool. And if you haven't seen it, go over and check it out because it's really cool. And then I got a question of things on my bucket list. I'm not too entirely sure because especially at the moment I'm struggling a lot, so it's hard to kind of picture my future. One of my biggest goals, so like in terms of career, my biggest goal is to go into pediatric nursing, and then hopefully at some point go over and volunteer in some third world countries, working with children as well. But in terms of mental health, my biggest kind of goal is I want to do a TED Talk. I love TED Talks, so hopefully that is on the agenda at some point. And then just the little, can't say little things, but the big things about getting my shit together and being in a better place mentally so I can fully support other people. And I want to go skydiving. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, well, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe for some more cool stuff. And like I'm going to try and do some vlogs when we're out on the road and the tour and everything. Like it's going to be pretty cool. This is just in kind of a baseline to start off from. And if you've made it this far, it means so much to me. Thank you so much. And I just want to, like, I was like, what am I going to wear? I was like, this top is so like fitting to wear, but I actually got it from a friend on Instagram. I will link his Instagram in the bio too, Jack Beecroft. I do not know your last name, I'm so sorry. And he's making and selling these t-shirts, and all the money's going to Movember. I believe he isn't selling them at the moment, but he will be soon, so kind of go check him a follow and keep an eye out for when these tops are coming out because they're so cool. And I've already gotten so many compliments on them, like being out and about, which I think is so awesome. So yeah, thank you so much, and keep an eye out for some more videos.